Welcome, everybody. This is track 3. And our next session is be a state model for private sector information sharing. Carrie, are you able to share your audio video? Hi, Persia.
Hey, Tom.
All right. Carrie, I'll turn it over to you.
All right. So thank you so much for tuning in to our track 3, which is on GIS and resilience. And today it's my pleasure to introduce Persia Payne-Hurley, who's a private sector manager and WebEOC coordinator from the North Carolina Emergency Management. So with that, Persia, I will turn it over to you.
Hey, everybody. How's it going? I know that this is a interesting track and hopefully interesting to some of you. This isn't the high-speed IT, everything you ever wanted to know about data. But what it is a opportunity to see the kind of benefits that the private sector gets when they partner with North Carolina Emergency Management. So I want to tell you that this is your WebEOC, and I say that because we've developed it with you in mind, and also with the way North Carolina responds. So I'm a big proponent of using a platform, if you can, to customize that to how your state responds. And so this time with WebEOC. A little background, I don't know how many of you are familiar with WebEOC, almost everyone is, but it's also called SPARTA. In our state, NC SPARTA, but generally we call it WebEOC almost, routinely, and that's what you're going to hear here. So in the next 35 minutes, I'm going to try to show you the WebEOC boards that we have built that enhance our engagement, not just with the private sector, but gives you guys access to everything that we do in the operations of the response. Also, it gives you great insight and ground truth to the counties, local municipalities, all of the other state agencies as well. So we're talking about, lottie-dottie, everybody involved in the state emergency response team. So I've already admitted that I'm not an IT guru, but at the end of this session, as we go through it, I will collect your questions if you have them and take them to our IT folks to get those answers for you. So over the last 5 years, and I want to tell you that the key for us has been, how do we incorporate private sector into the state EOC? We believe that it has to do with information and access. So the more everyone shares, the more everybody understands the severity of what's happening, and then we can really get into the response. So when we hear people talk about the common operating picture, well, this is our answer to that common operating picture, everyone looking at the same information in real time and being able to really understand the progression of an event and where we are. So there's really about 7, maybe a little more, benefits to our system and the private sector memberships with us. And one of them is physical access to the EOC that you see behind me in sunny Raleigh, North Carolina. And what happens is the partners in our group have run of the EOC. They have free reign. They run all over the place. I think the only place that they're not allowed are places that I'm not allowed. Like in the some suite way on the 4th floor that belongs to National Guard or something like that. But for the most part, they are able to do face-to-face coordination with state agencies like DOT, Public Health, Highway Patrol, National Guard, the VOADs, our voluntary organizations, and all the functional areas of North Carolina Emergency Management. So they can be sitting, you can go in and coordinate with DOT or sit with Public Health or talk to Ag or Commerce and anybody that's in the state EOC. And the WebEOC is located inside. So I'm sorry you can't see it on this background of mine. We're in an inside room in a main hallway. So we don't get much sunlight, but it's sort of like Vegas. You can't tell if it's day or night, which is kind of like what disasters are. So the second item I want to tell you, or I need to mention, when you physically come, we are known for feeding people. So North Carolina barbecue all around, every day, all the time. But the second thing that you get is access to WebEOC, which I'm going to show you today. So all of our partners have this access. I need to remind you guys that every state uses WebEOC, but this is a customized platform now. We built it out after every disaster. We've lifted into the private sector, what they want to see, what their comments are. We've incorporated those, and we do updates every single year, usually right before hurricane season. Practice those to a statewide exercise, which our partners are invited to, and then use them during hurricane season. So this access is usually for 2 people in an organization. We ask for primary and secondary. There are exceptions to that rule depending on your organization. We ask for logistics folks, crisis response people, disaster recovery folks, folks in your operations and logistics department, those people that are the hub of your organization during times of disaster, security people. These are the ones that we typically want to have there because they are trying to keep operations going, and that's the name of the game. So rather than go on and on, I want to share my screen with you, and I'm going to use something. I'm going to go live here, and I'm going to ask you to follow me through the next benefits that we get, and I'm going to take you right to the platform. So I'm going to use a few examples from past hurricanes,
Hey,
also from
Persia,
Corona.
sorry, I don't mean to switch off.
Sorry?
You may want to switch off your video for a few minutes. Sorry, I think you're coming in through a little choppy. I don't know if that's just me.
Okay.
Tom, have you noticed any choppiness?
Are you
Okay.
okay?
Yeah, we can hear you now. I just want to make sure it wasn't just me. So I was asking Tom if he also experienced some choppiness, but
Okay.
sorry, I don't want to interrupt. Let's keep going. Sorry, Persia.
Do you see me now?
Okay, someone else said that you sound fine, so maybe it's just me. So if you want to share your video, that's fine. I think it might just be me. Sorry, Persia.
Okay, no problem. Okay, right now I'm sharing my screen. I want to make sure you can see it. Can you guys see my screen?
We cannot see it yet.
It's up.
Maybe try unsharing and then sharing again, Persia.
Okay. I'm having a little trouble seeing you. How's that?
There we go. Now we can see it.
I'm so sorry.
We got it. We got it. No, we had a little tech issue on our side. Our tech got
Okay.
it. Thank you.
So I'm just going to log in here. This is the logon screen that you would see. And it's telling me it doesn't know me right now. So I'm going to try again. And as you can see right now, I'm logged in as BEOC coordinator. So for your organization, you would show up in this area. And right now I'm logged on to novel coronavirus. That's our current activation. This is day 324. I'm going to enlarge this. So this is the landing page that you would normally see. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through an actual event so that you can understand where we are in terms of how this is used. So starting with coronavirus, I'm going to go over here. and go down to significant events. And let me explain what's happening when I go there. Significant events are real-time live postings for everyone. I mean, the county is posting, all of the agencies, all of our agency partners, and the private sector. And they have posting rights here. So we are sharing all kinds of information. And I'll give you an example on today's. This is live. For instance, here, the plan section has posted executive summary for today for coronavirus. I can go right over here and I can look at an attachment that they've got. That's our executive summary. I can open that up and there's our summary for today that has all of the corona information, national information, executive orders. This is kind of an at-a-glance report. If you're on the WebEOC distribution, you typically will get this by email from me. And that's really for people that typically don't like to monitor this system all the time. And these are the lifelines. So just giving you an idea of the kinds of things. So we can attach photos as well. So everyone is reporting here. Here's RDU reporting, hub and spoke. That's for all of the airports in North Carolina. And as you can see, we're here getting posts from Wayne County, Mecklenburg, Henderson, Carteret, McDowell, just all across the state. If you look closely, you'll see postings from other groups like infrastructure, Department of Homeland Security, TSA. They're just anyone that is with the State Emergency Response Team is posting to here. So here's your information, real-time situational awareness. So I want to give you an example during Hurricane Matthew, because I think that's a good one. And it speaks to why this is important to you. We watched Cumberland County, for instance, in Fort Bragg area, post their water treatment facility. They posted it here. And I'll give you, I want to give you a longer here report. They posted in here something at the time about their treatment facility failing and that they were going to lose 70% of the county, water pressure in 2 hours and water in 6. So our partners who were logged on from the North Carolina Beverage Association, they saw that posting, called us. It couldn't have been 10 minutes. Then they said, hey, you know what? Our members at Coke and Pepsi are switching over to water right now because we see Cumberland County's having this problem. We know that it's going to be an issue for them. We can be ready to deliver water in 4 hours. And they said, hey, we want to offer that to the state and to Cumberland County. Well, the wonderful thing is that we found a way to put things like that, offers for help like that. First of all, they were able to have immediate assistance, immediate help. And we created something called the WebEOC Assets Board. Now, this board is where our partners can go in and they can park any deployable assets, force package that they would like to offer to the state to assist. Now, this can be at cost, for lease, for rent, for donation. It can be any of those things, and it can be any item. For instance, right here, I will show you where United Healthcare offered us a mobile clinic. Actually, it was 2 mobile clinics. They were able to put them in right here. They were for donation, that we could take them on the draw. But what they really meant was on loan, because that would be an asset that we would return to them during demobilization. Their point of contact, email, all of that is there. So I've got this information in Resource Tracker so that I can, and so I can look at many things, water. I believe we have a small airplane here, just all kinds of things. So back to my scenario, the North Carolina Beverage Association posts that, hey, we're ready to switch over bottling operations. How much do you need? I'm coordinating on the phone and we're thinking, hey, we'll probably need water for at least 3 days. And so they said, okay, no worries. We'll pick a number out of the air, and they parked about 300,000 units on the WebEOC Assets Board. I'm using this as an example because all of the Matthew and Florence assets, some of those that were used or archived, copied to those donors. But I'll give you an example here with Harris Teeter, where they've got 15 truckloads water and a contact information. And they've also had the ability to put in an address for lat and longitude of where that is, so we know where it's coming from. So back to our scenario. So I talked to logistics and we talked to the county and they say, great, we would like to accept that. The county does something called a resource request. And anybody familiar with us, you guys know that we take those in the BEOC. Now we accept them just like logistics. County gets overwhelmed. They, in any state, they put in a request to the state. State then tries to fill that request. In North Carolina, the BEOC can also get those requests. So inside resource tracker, that's what you're looking at now. We're looking at it right now for COVID. You can see where the BEOC has received requests. All of these are ours since COVID began. So I'm going to give you an example here where we had the secondhand food bank request reefer assistance for cold storage. And our partners over at Builder Services said they would take that request. And if you can see here, it was assigned to me. I assigned it over to Builder Services. Here's what they were asking for: 53-foot trailer refrigerated cold storage. In the BEOC, we confirmed that that was the need. So we vetted that request. And then here you can see a history of everything that happened, when it was assigned to me, who the point of contact was at the food bank. You know, it says feeding coordination requested, refrigerator trailer at their storage site for all local pantries. And then they might have given us a time frame. And you can see where we coordinated that final coordination, 53-foot trailer and drop by Builder Services. The point of contact's time for drop is all in this area, including a lat and longitude of where that truck's going to be. And then we sent it over to Builder Services. This shows up for our partners. And over here, they can write down when it's in progress, when it's en route, whether they need more information, or in this case, because that trailer is still there supporting a food bank, they can mark it on scene. So this is Resource Tracker, and I wanted you guys to understand that that's how we're moving all of these supplies. And these, as I said, all of the requests that the BEOC has gotten since we started with COVID-19. Now, back to my scenario, right? So we have the North Carolina Beverage Association, Coke and Pepsi, want to move water. We've got the request. I've assigned it now to the North Carolina Beverage Association, and they're tracking that it's en route or it's in progress. Now, how are Coke and Pepsi going to get into that impacted area? Probably has roadblocks. They might have barricades. Well, we have something in North Carolina called vendor reentry. Our partners can log on to vendor reentry right there. And as you see what I'm doing, I'm going to look at the vendor access registry. This is a registration form of all of our partners. Now, I want to pick somebody. I don't want to pick on anybody in particular, but let's just say I will mess around with 7-Eleven because they're first on my list. They would come in once they join us. They would come in and put all of their information, their registration information, phone numbers, and so forth in here. Their point of contacts, their primary and secondary folks that are going to have access to WebEOC. Now, why do we track that? Well, sometimes Highway Patrol or local police says, hey, we want to let you know that such and such business is flooding, or the roof is blown off, or any of that. Do you have an emergency contact? And in here is where they can review our MOA. There is an MOA associated with reentry certification. And for the most part, it says that our partners are not going to go on Hatteras and loot properties and steal cars during a hurricane. It's a very simple MOA. Any of you is welcome to read it. Electronic signature here. I certify those, and I certify each and every one personally. And then when I do, in just about, it takes maybe 30 minutes, you would then get this green print button that you can go in and look at your certification and print directly from here. It's signed by the Secretary of Department of Public Safety, and it's signed by my boss. And it also gives the level of phase that that person can go through the impacted areas. And we have 3 phases: life, health, safety, and economic well-being. And we can talk about that all day long, but I want you to know that who determines whether an area is restricted or whether there's a curfew or which phase we're in is the counties. So they're directly involved in this process. And you can go in there and print out however many that organization needs. All right, so Pepsi and Coca-Cola have their reentry certifications. Now what are we doing? We talked about resource tracker. I'm tracking Coke and Pepsi from here in terms of their progress that they're putting into the system that I can see, my boss can see, and logistics. Everyone cannot see that. It's just those three. I can watch their progress. Once it gets unseen, then they can change their progress to unseen and on scene, and we can mark it complete. But in the event of the water with Matthew, this was an ongoing operation. We delivered 300,000, a little bit more than that units. We did about 10 or 11 truckloads per day for 11 days to Cumberland County and the Fort Bragg area. And that is because they had no water. But I went through that whole scenario so that you guys could see how we go from you're in the EOC, you have access to WebEOC, so you can be virtual if you like, how that information comes in, how our partners tend to respond to that, how they use that information, because you're also going to have other information that you're going to find here. I'm going to show you that in a second. So we've tracked the status and we've made the assignment. So how do I know what's going on? How do you get a at a glance picture? Because I know I like at a glance pictures, and I suspect that you do too. Well, what we've done is we've come up with something called common operating picture. And this down arrow board I'm using, all of our partners have a lot of different options here. We customize this for folks. I mean, you may not want to see hospital status, or there may be some area for one reason or another that you wouldn't be allowed to see. I want to give you an example of that so you understand, like a nuclear power plant status. You're probably not going to have that kind of access. You don't want that kind of access. Believe me, it's very boring to watch too. But here you can go into links, and there's a lot of tools here. So you get to situational SIG events here. You can get to our directory. We have after action reporting here that you can, while the event's going on, put in your suggestions, which we act upon those. You can get to power outages from here. And I'll show you that, but I want to show you another place where you can get it. This is Corona power outages, so they are not as high as you would expect. But as you can see, Duke Energy, Dominion, the co-ops, our electric cities, these are our totals, and that's kind of common for today. This is a direct RSS feed. It's live. You see it right there. It updates about every 10 minutes. Below that is a breakdown by county of where those outages are. So when we're doing power restorations, this is a very, very busy board. It's jumping a lot. You don't have to sit there and watch it if you want more of a big picture. So now I'm going back to common operating picture. This is under links if you've got access. I know some of you guys might be following. Common operating picture, it's going to load. This is a basic Esri map. It opens separate from WebEOC. And as you can see, it shows North Carolina. And keep in mind, this right now is live. This is the winter storm weather that we just had and a little bit of a wave activity going on there. I'm going to explain this real quickly, but this is a great board. A lot of partners like to go here and get all of the information that that they want to know about. So I'm going to make it a little bigger, maybe there. Now, and as background, I want you guys to know that usually it doesn't look like this because we're in the Corona response. These numbers that you see, those are the numbers of cases per county, positive infection rates. So I live in Durham. I'm going to click on that so that you can see we've got about 18,900. It also lists the number of deaths that we have, and all our partners can see this. So that's because of this current event that we're on. And while I'm showing you this, I want to point out that on that main page where I was, you could use a down arrow and go to any event. So in the instance of multiple events, we were watching the Corona event. Then we were also watching Hurricane Isaias, which I will show you in a minute. And so you can toggle back and forth. You're going to get a different picture for whatever event. This one happens to be Corona. Up here is your, are all of the choices that you can make.
Persia, we're not seeing your map.
Tom?
People in the chat saying we're not seeing your map. Are you sharing a map or are you sharing your power outage, your WebEOC screen?
I'm showing the, oh, maybe I am Thank you guys for telling me that. I'm going on and on and on, and I don't have you on the right item.
It was really good, though.
Okay, how's that? Better?
Better. Got it.
I told you guys I'm not an IT guru. Thanks for that. So I'm just going to go back a pace. So the map looks like this. I want to, because we're in Corona. Typically, it wouldn't look this way, but these are just the infection numbers across the state that you can see. I'm going to take you through a couple things so that you can understand how we layer this. This is our little layer sheet. So I can mark COVID-19 cases. I can say, I don't know, let's say Sparta shelters. I can look at power outages, but let's say for this, I wanted to show you guys tasks in progress. With the water scenario from Hurricane Matthew, I told you guys that Pepsi and Coke are running every day. We're coordinating every single morning where that water is going to go. This would be a way that you could watch those tasks in progress, and you can see that they're lining up. Now I'm going to shut down. I'm going to take away, let me see. I'm going to take away a few things that we're monitoring for COVID that we don't really need to see here, so that you can see this a little bit more clearly there. I've taken away the COVID cases. These are the tasks that are running across the state that have come through Resource Tracker for COVID. So in my water scenario, I would be able to see those tasks down in the Fort Bragg area, click on that task, and we can see what that is. In this case, this is in Cumberland County. And as you can see, it says Glen Christie's Manor requesting overhead staff due to outbreak in their facility. That's a long-term care request. And any of these tasks, you can see where they're going on anywhere in the state and what their status is. And it works the same as a hurricane. So you can layer that however you would like. And you can look at power outages and the rest. I want to show you county impacts. Looks like a little house, but this is the overall impact summary. You can look at county impact deaths. I'm just going to turn that on for COVID because it's so busy right now. That's what it looks like. These are all of the counties that have been impacted by deaths by coronavirus at a glance. I can turn that off. I want to show also, this is county evacuation status. Obviously, we're not using that here. And this is state or county emergency operations centers that are open. There are 85 out of 100. And I want to tell you that once that loads, you're going to get another arrow and it has a listing of all 85. So you can look at this in a lot of different ways and get information that you want. Overall impacts, you can look at them in a lot of different ways, but I think that the overall county impacts, that's loading tasks. Some of those might have active vaccinations going on. Some of those are going to be deaths. And there's a ledger here that tells you which is which. Sorry, there's our ledger. So you can look at things like shelters. It tells you what that capacity is. You can look at what operational category that they're in. So there's a lot of ways to use this tool, and the partners really like it because they can tell at a glance what's happening. We've got watches and warnings in here. This lists the current snow warnings that we have going on or any kind of flood warnings. And then this is the outages, the other way that you can look at power outages. So I want you guys to mess around with that, but there's a lot there, but I wanted to tell you that a lot of people only monitor this because they can see hurricane weather, they can see shelters. And I'll tell you right now, we've got 2 shelters open. One of them is in Lenore County. And it says the capacity, and you can also find it on the map if I remove some of these layers.
Urjik, can you talk for just a second? How do people get access to this or join this or subscribe? Can you talk about that for just a minute?
Well, I'm sorry. Well, it's pretty easy to join the Business COC. We love to take emails from people because we like to contact companies directly. So if you email beoc@ncdps.gov, you would be able to send a message directly to me and talk to me about your company. And I would be able to verify things like, you actually have a company in North Carolina, or you operate in North Carolina, or you support other businesses in North Carolina. And why would you want to join us? Of course, there is no cost to join us. The only MOA is the one that I showed you, which is for reentry, access and reentry. But we really do build those partnerships. And so we really do depend on why people are there and bringing them into our group, which is a very trusted group.
And that's BEOC at NC, North Carolina, DPS, Department of Public Safety at .gov, right? Got it.
Yes.
I'll put it in the chat. Thank you.
So I'm going, maybe I should pause for some questions before I go into, before I go further into Feynman, Tom, because I know I'm flying, but I really wanted to just get you familiar with what's available. And I think that I'm down to 7 benefits, and I've got one more, but I wanted to give you guys a chance to see this. So I'm gonna remove a lot of these things here so that we can see what we're looking at.
Persia, we do have some questions here. The first one is focused on the hotel, right? Can you talk some more about the information on hotel availability, specific numbers of rooms, so forth, and where does the data come from?
No, you're talking about hotel data?
Yeah.
Okay, well, that's, you're talking about our non-congregate sheltering program.
Yes. Yes.
That is, it's almost ready. It's being polished and it's in development now.
This is a rapid prototype development project, right?
I do. That project was probably an 18-month project. We did it in about 4 months. There are 250 hotels involved in that project. They are in a memorandum of understanding with the state. And they have agreed to give us information directly from their hotel. This isn't the kind of information you get from some of the third-party hotel vendors. This information is coming directly from owners and franchise owners and big companies like Hilton or Hyatt and Holiday Inn. So that's where the information comes from. What we did was we gathered that information based on max capacities and things like ADA rooms, pet friendly, whether they had backup generator power capabilities, that kind of thing. So that data is coming from their hotels in terms of numbers of rooms, king size, queens, and so forth. Does that answer?
Yes.
This information is, I showed you the GIS information. This is a basic GIS that we pull, but we also have pulled in Tim's information from DOT. We've also pulled in information that I mentioned from Dominion and Duke and those guys, and that's a direct live feed or direct feed. So the only other thing that I wanted to make sure that I did when I leave this common operating picture, I wanted to show you guys Feynman. But before I do that, I'm going to bounce over to Hurricane EZAS. So I'm going to stop this one, right, and share the other. I want to show you Hurricane EZAS just briefly. There we go. And I want to show you what I'm doing here. I'm leaving Corona. Here is a listing of all of the events in North Carolina, even exercises that we have up here. So you can look at those. So I'm going into the Hurricane EZAS from August. If I can find it, there he is. And I'm going to go, I have my tabs open still, so I'm going to go right into significant events because I want to show you how our partners can post to significant events as well. For instance, here's the Restaurant and Lodging Association for Hurricane EZAS. And we've got human services, recovery, me as the BEOC coordinator, I post here at Ferry Division, but also I think we had a number of companies that were posting because they were trying to coordinate their own operations, like Verizon, and also people like our banks. Here's Builder Services, and you can see that they've made a statement here. So I wanted to show you guys that because EZAS was not considered a big loss, a big disaster, but we had a good number of partners that were involved. So I know I only have about 8 minutes left, and while we're counting that down, I wanted to show you our flood inundation mapping alert system, also known as FIMAN. Our partners have access to FIMAN, and it's a predictive software. Obviously, you guys are familiar with this map. So I'm going to do this really quickly. I mean, this is our ledger that talks about gauges and that kind of thing, and what kind of, we have a lot of gauges all over the state, obviously. But what's important to note is that if you pick one of these gauges, I'm going to pick Crabtree Valley Mall. If you pick one of these gauges, it'll retrieve that data and you can go right to that gauge. And over here, you can put in your address. So you can put in the address of your regional office. You can put in the address of your bank branch, your distribution center. You can put in any address. It will pull up the closest gauges to that address. And if you choose one of those gauges near that address, in this case, I'm going to pick Crabtree Valley Highway 70 Raleigh, Crabtree Creek.
Hey, Persia.
Yep.
I think you might have the FIMAN map on a different screen. Everybody sees the significant events list.
Okay. I've done it again, you guys. I see. Once again, as I said, I'm not the IT guru. There we go.
There we go. Thank you.
There we go. And now everyone is like, how in the world did she get there? So I'm going to go back here. If you can see my cursor, here's where you would put your address inside FIMAN. And this is a hot link directly inside WebEOC. And if you put that address in there, in this case, I put in 4325 Glenwood Avenue, because Glenwood Avenue is where Crabtree Valley Mall is. Then you're going to get the gauges that are within a 25 mile radius, and you can choose one, choosing Crabtree. Then that's going to retrieve that data for you. And if you can see this, this is Crabtree Valley Mall. This is Glenwood Avenue in Raleigh. And you can see the creek that's going right through that area. Well, I mentioned this is a predictive software, and we used it to evacuate Princeville during Hurricane Matthew, and we used it again to gauge flooding at the coast. If you go into scenario, you can increase the water levels based on what the forecast is at that location, and it will show you what the progressive rising of water will do. It'll also show you right here what the impacts are. In this case, $32 million in that area. It tells you Glenwood Avenue floods at the bridge, travel hampered at Glenwood Avenue, 12 buildings damaged, impacts with estimated damages there. Most parking lots at Crabtree Valley Mall and Shell gas station flooded. And you can look at, based on the ledger, how many feet of water, how much water is in each building. Now, if I take this all the way to the end, you can see in these red buildings, they are underwater. We found this to be very accurate. And you can also obviously look, if I go in further, you can look that Glenwood Avenue would be flooded in this case, and there would be water on the other side of the road as well. So I wanted to show you FIMAN because we did an evacuation of 560 some seniors from a long-term care facility based on this predictive software that showed there was going to be water in their parking lot and coming up to their building. absolutely accurate within a foot with the water. So it's something that you can mess around with, but
Yeah.
just
Persia,
another
we got-
benefit of
Persia, we got about 3
giving y'all
minutes.
access.
We got about 3 minutes. Okay.
Yeah, well, that's it. I've been going 100 miles per hour. I really
know.
just wanted to familiarize you.
I know you are.
And,
I put in the chat just a few of the capabilities in WebEOC that Persia and her team have designed, all in response to private sector requests and issues. It's amazing. And Persia, we're probably going to need to do a deeper dive on that. We did a webinar 18 months ago. Would love to refresh that. Just really just a great example of how you have worked with the private sector and listened, right? And innovated. It's amazing. We got, I just wanted to see if we have any questions, point them into the chat if you would, or the Q&A part. One question here, Persia, is, are the flood inundation visualizations available for all of North Carolina?
yes. So you can go from coast to coast. It's really going to be depending on the information that you get is going to be heavily dependent on those gauges in that area. So if you picked an area where there were maybe 2 gauges or it doesn't flood often, it's going to pull information from those 2 gauges, and you want to get as close as possible to your location.
Right. And one last question here is, did you have resistance letting private sector see stuff? Which a lot of states do. And how did you overcome it? And what's been the benefit of that? We got about a minute, but I would love for you to speak to that if you can.
I would say, the big hurdle was, government has a long tradition of being very secretive, keeping a lot of information to itself and that kind of thing. But when you're talking about the sort of responses that we do in North Carolina that really need that common operating picture, I mean, there's a lot of lip service about the common operating picture. Thankfully, I've got superb leadership, and they were willing to allow me to push the envelope. So when I came to my boss and said, I want to give the private sector access to WebEOC, that's our common operating picture, after he wanted me to find out, hey, is that legal? And got the blessing from them that, well, it is public information. And I didn't ask any questions, ran with it. And but the thing is, now I don't think that we'll ever go back. Seeing the benefit to government of the private sector, understanding the severity, understanding where the needs are, seeing this event progress and get bigger, and hearing the outcry from citizens, and they can see and understand what's going on. I can't imagine ever going back.
Well, I know firsthand, I know a lot of companies that belong to that, and they said it's really wonderful and it's secure, right? It's you vet every single company. Nobody just walks in.
That's
Everybody
right.
knows that, and it really is a game changer. And of course, in North Carolina, you guys get hammered a lot, so there's a big need, right, for this. So I think you guys.
Well, we also have a philosophy, Tom. I mean, if you probably don't want to share something that you would not be able to justify to your own board members and your own leadership in your company, you probably wouldn't want to share that on a significant events page during an event.
Right. Exactly. Persia, thank you. Carrie, I'm going to turn it back over to you. The information's up on the 3 tracks, and if people want to change tracks, just go to ahc2021.com. And Persia, I'm sure we'll be talking more about this in the future. So,
Hey, I hope that was helpful.
Thank you, Persia.